handset, the White House with the American flag hanging, is the Barrel House. The Barrel House dates back to 1848. And during those times when people had money, they would go out and purchase urn. Now we're going to be specifically looking at this fence closest to the street. This is the fence of presidents and poets. The presidents are faced to the right. The famous poets of that time are faced to the left. Now, as beautiful as that fence is, it has been recycled into bits and pieces throughout the city of Savannah. Next, on our right-hand side, these people right here, they had a small penny to go out and spend. They purchased themselves iron dolphin downspouts. Now, they are magical dolphins. That's why they kind of resemble catfish. To the left of us in Chippewa Square, that monument is dedicated to James Edward Oglethorpe. James Edward Oglethorpe is the founder of our colony, and he's facing our enemies, those Spaniards down in Florida. Now, many of the monuments that I'll be showing you on the tour today are also facing their enemies.
When we came with
On our right-hand side, where you see this red telephone booth, this is a sixpence pub. If anybody on board has ever saw that movie, Something to Talk About, starring Julia Roberts, she stood about right here as she watched her husband have dinner with his mistress, that dirty dog. Now, Something to Talk About is just one of the movies filmed right here in Savannah, Georgia. Forrest Gump was filmed here in Savannah, Georgia. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Glory, starring Denzel Washington. Baywatch, starring The Rock. SpongeBob, Fish Out of Water, just to name a few, were all filmed right here in Savannah, Georgia. On our left-hand side, we have the Desoto Hotel. The Desoto Hotel was named after Hernandez de Soto, who was a famous Spanish explorer. The original Desoto Hotel was torn down in the mid-1800s because it didn't have air conditioning. The lions in the front are from the original Desoto Hotel. Coming up on our right-hand side, the Moorish-style building, Saints and Shamrocks, was the first Ford Motors company here in Savannah, Georgia. Henry Ford would pull those Ford Motors into the side of the building to be put on display through the front. Now, Mr. Henry Ford said that you could have any color Ford you want, just as long as it was black. The next stop on our tour is stop number 3, the Sorrel-Weed House. If this is your stop, please wait for the doors to open and use the handrails for safety. Anybody for stop number 3? On our right-hand side, we have the Sorrel-Weed House. The Sorrel-Weed House was built for wealthy merchant Francis Sorrel and his wife Matilda. The Sorrel-Weed House was infamous for the lavish parties they threw, which leaked into the green. The green being Massey Square, named after our 4th president. Next, on our right-hand side, we have the Green Meldrum House. The Green Meldrum House was built for Charles Green. Charles Green surrendered his house to General Sherman. And on Christmas, General Sherman surrendered the city of Savannah to Abraham Lincoln. General Sherman wrote Abraham Lincoln a letter offering him 150 guns, plenty ammunition, and 25,000 bales of cotton. Now, Abraham Lincoln, he was going to burn down the city of Savannah, so General Sherman did the right thing by surrendering. On our left-hand side, inside of Massey Square, that monument is dedicated to William Jasper. William Jasper was brutally wounded in the Siege of Savannah War. The battleground for the Siege of Savannah was right here in Massey Square. Now, William Jasper is the only non-commissioned officer who has a monument here in Savannah, Georgia. The brick building with the cannons in the front on our left-hand side is the Volunteer Guards of Savannah, conveniently close to the Siege of Savannah battleground. And when the Savannah College of Arts and Designs came down in 1979, they restored the Volunteer Guards of Savannah, and this is where they housed those 71 students. To the left and the right of us is Jones Street. Down right of Jones Street is where you'll find Mrs. Wilkes' restaurant. Mrs. Wilkes is on a first-come, first-served basis. She'll invite you in. She'll make you feel like family. Then she'll bring out about 22 bowls of delicious food so that'll have you reminiscing about Thanksgiving all over again. Directly ahead of us is Monterey Square. Monterey Square is named for the victory that we had won in Monterey, Mexico. That war took place between 1846 and 1848. The monument inside of Monterey Square is dedicated to Count Casimir Pulaski. Count Casimir Pulaski offered his services to George Washington during the American Revolutionary War. Both of those men were shot and killed during that war. A rumor has it Count Casimir's remains were either underneath this monument or out at sea. Before this monument was placed here, the trustees of the colony ran a few tests, and unfortunately, those tests all came back inconclusive. On our right-hand side, we have the Mercer Williams House, built by Johnny Mercer's great-grandfather. Now, the Mercer Williams House is infamous for being in the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. In the bottom left-hand window is where Jim Williams rumored to shot and kill his friend Danny. Now, Jim Williams, he went to trial and he was found to be not guilty. He came home and months later he passed away in that same room from a heart attack. On our left-hand side, we have Temple Mikveh Israel. Temple Mikveh Israel is the third oldest Jewish congregation in America, and it is the only Gothic-style synagogue in America as well. Coming up on our right-hand side, we have the Armstrong House. The Armstrong House was originally Armstrong University. The Armstrong House is covered in white marble dust. The fence is a replica of the fence from Buckingham Palace. The Armstrong House is being renovated. It is expected to be privately owned within the next 2 months. Directly ahead of us, we have the fountain on Forsyth. The fountain on Forsyth was purchased out of a mail catalog for $2,500.
Wow.
The original colors of that fountain were orange, purple, and blue. In 1935, the city went ahead and painted that fountain white. There are only 3 of these fountains in existence today. The one that we have here in Savannah, there's one in Peru, and there's one in New York. Now between these 2 houses right here, you'll find a pineapple sitting on a column. Many people don't know it, but pineapples are a sign of hospitality. When the woman or the host of the house would have over company, she would pull out pineapples and sit them on the mantelpiece or on the fireplace to welcome her guests. But when those pineapples came down, it just simply meant that it was time for everyone to kick rocks. I will be turning left onto Whitaker Street, entering into our Victorian district, leading out of the Historic District. On our left-hand side, we have the Georgia Historical Society. The Georgia Historical Society is the 3rd oldest historical society in America. The Georgia Historical Society was built by Margaret Telfair Hodgson and was dedicated to her husband, Will Hodgson. Inside of the Georgia on our left-hand side is Forsyth Park. Forsyth Park was named after John Forsyth, who served as Secretary of State during Andrew Jackson's presidency. Forsyth Park was laid out in 1861, and it is 30 acres. Next on our left-hand side, you'll find the Confederate Monument. The Confederate Monument erected in 1875. The Confederate Monument was dedicated to those men who went to fight in the Civil War but weren't able to make it back home. The daughters and the wives of those men wanted something to remember them by, so they had this monument made. Now those ladies didn't want the Confederate Monument to touch any northern soil, so they had this monument sent to Canada to be made. Now, even though those ladies sent it all the way to Canada to be made, the guy who made it, he was from New York. The Confederate Monument arrived in Savannah via the Savannah River. Once those men took the Confederate Monument off the ship, they rowed it to Forsyth Park using logs. Now, Forsyth Park is where we hold many of our outdoor social events. We have our 1K mile runs here. We have music concerts here. Farmers Market comes out each and every Saturday with fresh fruits and vegetables for the community to purchase. Coming up on our left-hand side, we have the Hikers Trail Monument. The Hikers Trail Monument is dedicated, to the Georgians who went to Cuba to fight in the Spanish-American War. On our right-hand side, we have Brighter Day. Brighter Day is where you can purchase your natural foods and essential vitamins. Right next to Brighter Day is the Bean. The Bean has their own brand of coffee beans. Right next to the Bean is Lachey. Lachey is the only place here in the city of Savannah that will sell you a glass of wine instead of the whole bottle. Now the next stop on our tour is stop number 4, the Telfair Hospital. Conveniently close to Forsyth Park, conveniently close to the Shea. If stop number 4 is your stop, please wait for the doors to open and please use the handrails for safety. Anybody for stop number 4? Brick building. The red brick building is the mansion on Forsyth. The mansion on Forsyth was built back in 1888 by Alfred Eichberg, costing $45,000. The mansion on Forsyth is a 4-diamond, 3-story hotel. It houses over 130 guests. It has 16 suites, a culinary school, a day spa, and an art gallery. Next, on our right-hand side, we have the Old Poorhouse of Savannah. The Old Poorhouse of Savannah changed its name to Candler Hospital. This building is now owned by the Savannah College of Arts and Design. Next, on our right-hand side, we have the live oak tree. The live oak tree is the stage tree. Now, this is the oldest live oak tree here in the state of Georgia. This live oak tree is over 300 years old. Now, the next stop on our tour is going to be the Massey School, dating back to 1857. The Massey School is the oldest public school building in Georgia. During the Civil War, the Massey School was shut down and was used as a hospital for the troops. The Massey School was reopened in 1977 as a heritage museum. Today, the Massey School is being used as a teaching museum to teach our visitors about Savannah and Georgia's history. On our left-hand side, we have the Wesley Monumental Methodist Church, named after brothers John and Charles Wesley. They were 2 hymnists from New York. Those brothers wrote over 600 songs. Next, on our left-hand side, we have Calhoun Square, named after John Calhoun, who served as vice president during 2 presidencies. On our right-hand side, we have the Massey School. The Massey School is stop number 5 on our tour. If stop number 5 is your stop, please wait for the doors to open and please use the handrails for safety.
Look at that jerk.
Anybody for stop number 5? Thank you folks so much for riding with me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. On our left-hand side, we have Bethy Baptist Church. Bethy was built back in 1893 by Henry Urban and was designed to be an African-American congregation. Inside the congregation in the choir lobe, you'll find a mural painted by William Pleasant. William Pleasant was a famous African-American folk teller and painter of those times. On our left-hand side, we have Whitfield Square. Whitfield Square was the last square to be laid out in 1751. Whitfield Square was named after Reverend George Whitfield, who was the founder of Bethesda Orphanage. Reverend Whitfield founded Bethesda in 1740, and it is known to be the oldest child care institute in America. Inside of Whitfield Square, on our left-hand side, that gazebo was donated to us by Burt Reynolds when he came to Savannah in 1976 to film the movie Gator. Whitfield Square was also the first African-American burial grounds. Andrew Bryant, the pastor of First African Baptist Church, and Henry Cunningham, the pastor of Second African Baptist Church, were both buried inside of Whitfield Square. Now we're going to be crossing over Jones Street. Jones Street was named after the Jones family, Mr. Noble Jones, who was the wealthiest colonist. Southern Living magazine named Jones Street to be the most beautiful street to walk down in North America. Now, Jones Street is also where you can find Mrs. Wilkes Restaurant. Ahead of us is Troop Square. Troop Square was named after General McIntosh Troop, who served as U.S. Congressman. Inside of Troop Square, I'll be introducing to you all 2 ornaments, and they'll both be on our left-hand side. The first ornament being the Armillary Sphere. The Armillary Sphere serves as a sundial, which is decorated by the zodiac signs. Next, we have the Myers Drinking Fountain, which is a replica of the fountain on Forsyth. The Myers Drinking Fountain, the drinking portion is down at the bottom because it's dedicated to our 4-legged friends. Every year in November, the Catholic brings their animals out to be blessed. Next on our left-hand side, we have the Unitary Universalist Church. It was from the Unitary Universalist Church that John Pierpont created our favorite carol, Jingle Bells. Now, he originally named that carol One Horse Open Sleigh. Fortunate enough, the congregation was able to convince him that Jingle Bells was a bit catchier. Crossing over Lincoln into Harris, we'll be entering into Lafayette Square. Lafayette Square was named after Marquis de Lafayette, a French patriot who fought with us during the Revolutionary War. Marquis de Lafayette paid commission to be general at the age of 19, and that commission was $2 million. On our right-hand side, we have the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, dating back to 1873. The Cathedral of St. John the Baptist was almost completely burned down in 1896. The newest renovations to the cathedral are the crosses and the stained glasses, which came about in 2000, costing the cathedral $11 million. Now, the cathedral is the only free attraction on our tour today. It is very beautiful on the inside. You guys have missed it already. Now, they would have allowed you to take pictures just as long as you turned your flash off your camera. Stop number 6 on our tour is the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. It's a 12 steps, turn around, and fire. Now, the winner would get to go home and have dinner with his family. The loser would coincidentally end up in the Colonial Park Cemetery. The first burial took place in 1750, the last in 1853. The brick vault that you see inside of the cemetery houses up to 9 family members. On our right-hand side, in the middle of the cemetery, you'll find a 4-posted mound dedicated to Dutton Gwinnett. Dutton Gwinnett was a Georgian who signed the Declaration of Independence. Now, during General Sherman's occupation here, he and his troops occupied the Colonial Park Cemetery. General Sherman, he had some pretty mischief troops. Those men felt like there wasn't enough room in the cemetery for them, their horses, the tents, and the deceased. Some of those men knocked over headstones, putting them back places where they didn't belong, having some people to live 600 and 700 years old, having some people to die before they were even born. Now, some of those had Big Duke was named after city alderman Marmaduke Hamilton. Now, Big Duke was rung to summon the volunteer firefighters. At one time, most of those firefighters were African American, about 75 or 76 of them. And when being a firefighter became more attractive, the volunteer African American firefighters were let go. On May 1st of 1963, the fire department hired on these volunteer African American firefighters to reintegrate the fire department. On our right-hand side, we have the Bellstone Inn. The Bellstone Inn is where Kevin Spacey stayed when he came to Savannah to film the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Right next to the Bellstone Inn, we have the birthplace of Juliet Gordon Low. Juliet Gordon Low was born on Halloween night of 1860. She discovered the Girl Scouts of America in 1912. You want to go? Just run it. Go. Go ahead. She discovered the Girl Scouts of America in 1912. Her niece was actually the first Girl Scout of America. Now, unfortunately, Miss Juliet Gordon Low passed away in 1927. In 1953, the Girl Scouts of America purchased the birthplace of Juliet Gordon Low. And in 1965, the birthplace of Juliet Gordon Low became the first historic landmark here in Savannah, Georgia. Now, on our right-hand side, we have the Juliet Gordon Low Federal Building. The Juliet Gordon Low Federal Building is the first